Saturn in Aries, this is a transit we've all been waiting for, especially as it meets up with Neptune at that 0-degree cardinal point of Aries. This is a power point, and I'm really eager and curious to see what this summer of 2025 brings for all of us. If you haven't seen my last video with world astrologer Bill Meridian on power points, definitely go check out that video here. And you can also listen to my podcast all about Saturn transits and what you can expect in my podcast, Cosmic Compass. I'll link it down below in the description. Saturn in Aries, let's talk about it. Hey, it's me, Helena. Welcome back to the show where I talk all about astrocartography, locational astrology, and predictive timing techniques. And in today's video, we're going to talk all about Saturn, what Saturn represents, what Saturn in Aries can mean for you and the world, and what are the shifts and changes that we're going to see over the next 3 years in our collective, as well as for us individually, personally. Now, before we get into today's episode, be sure to check out my astrocartography cheat sheet and Mapping Mysteries Revealed, my free audio experience. You can learn all about your astrocartography map. I'll include all those free links down below. And don't forget that I have a full blog filled with tons of content, over 300 blog posts. There's so much to learn. If you like reading blogs, check out my blog down below. There's a ton of content there for you. I'm a Hellenistic astrologer, and so when I talk about Saturn, I'm talking about the greater malefic that rules time and upholds boundaries. When we think about Saturn, we think about the Greek god Kronos or the Roman god Saturn. We think about Saturday, which is Saturn's day. And when we think about Saturn, we also think about time, maturity, discipline, and responsibility. Saturn is all about structure and upholding boundaries or invisible walls or barriers. Wherever Saturn is in our chart, Saturn asks us to be more disciplined and to take that area of life more seriously. And Saturn is a malefic, meaning it does kind of put a cloud on an area of our life, or it just makes something more serious. What is the area of life that we take more seriously? And for some of you, Saturn may not be as challenging as others. For those of you who have day charts or the sun is above the horizon, the ascendant-descendant axis, Saturn is actually quite constructive and helpful for you. For instance, I just finished my Saturn return and I live directly on a Saturn line and I love it. I love Saturn, rigor, discipline, commitment, dedication, and focus. I love all things Saturn and I really thrive as a day chart person. Now, if you have a night chart, Saturn or the sun is below the horizon or the ascendant-descendant axis, you have a night chart, meaning Saturn is more challenging for you or can provide or can show more long-term delays or suffering or hardships to whatever area of life it's in, and specifically when it's being activated by timing. And again, I talk all about the timing of Saturn in my podcast episode down below in the description. And Saturn is now about to enter Aries for the next 3 years. Is this a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Let's go deeper into this. Saturn is all about structure, discipline, and taking things seriously. Saturn moves slowly. Saturn is always thinking about the long-term repercussions of things. And Saturn wants to take its time. It doesn't like rushing things. Saturn believes that years of hard work and experience, that knowledge that you learn from hard experiences, give you that level of expertise. And so when we think about time and enduringness and boundaries and responsibility, Saturn entering Aries is in a place where it's not happy or comfortable in, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It represents the child. It represents speed and quickness and courage and initiation and just going for it. Act first, think later. Aries has this energy of recklessness and impulsivity and just going out and doing the thing that you want to do and not thinking about it. And Saturn doesn't really agree with how Aries does things. Saturn is in its fall or its depression when it's in Aries. Now, there are certain things that I am excited about with Saturn and Aries, like these themes of hard work and putting in a lot of effort into what you're doing and getting really serious about the things you want to be working on for the next 3 years. Saturn in Aries has this energy of labor intensive and really putting your head down to the grindstone and doing the work. The frustration or the problem with Saturn in Aries is that a lot of us will feel like we want to rush or be impulsive in what we're doing and what we're achieving and what we're striving for, is asking us to slow down and look at the finer print and the details and not jump in before you're ready. A lot of us are going to be feeling frustrated by this tug of war, this push-pull between wanting to go, but also feeling like we have to redo things or look at things again or slow it down so that we can get a full picture of what it is we're actually working towards. There's this energy of duality of speed, but needing to slow down. And so with this transit over the next 3 years, it's really important to understand that in order to speed up, in order to have this exponential growth in speed and movement, we have to slow down. Slow down to speed up. And wherever Aries is in your chart, Saturn is going to ask you to take that area of life, whatever house it's in, whatever whole sign house it's in, it's going to ask you to take that area of life more seriously, to be more disciplined and dedicated about that. You know, Saturn represents obligation and duty and responsibility, self-improvement. And Saturn does have this energy of self-focus, like being isolated, wanting to isolate yourself to improve upon your life. For example, Saturn is really happy in the 12th house of bad spirit, using Hellenistic astrology, right? That's where Saturn is really comfortable, and it does well because it understands the 12th house. It gets the 12th house, and the 12th house is isolation and solitude, being alone. And it's also the house of your mental health and anxiety and depression. Another thing that I really like about Saturn in Aries is we're all going to be really focused on ourselves and improving ourselves. We're not going to be victims to our lives or our circumstances or being in this woe is me mindset. That was Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Pisces is all about being so connected to your emotions and compassion and wanting to help everyone. Saturn in Aries is really getting serious about yourself and your mindset and being unshakable, being so anchored in your truth, your authenticity, which is your truth and honesty, and your leadership. Aries is the statement, I am. So where in your life do you need to get more serious and disciplined about who you are? Saturn in Aries might want you to isolate yourself a little bit during this transit in order to get really clear and laser focused on who you are. I'm calling Saturn in Aries the rise of self-concept. And self-concept is really this idea of having self-reliance, being self-reliant on your mindset, your opinions of yourself, your beliefs and ideas about yourself. Because when you are anchored and unshakable and so grounded in who you are, you don't care what anyone else thinks about you. Because you like yourself and you know yourself and you're living in truth, in total integrity with your values. When you are living honestly connected to yourself, I am, which is Aries, right? When you are so disciplined in the pursuit of excellence toward who you are and your mindset and your inner authority, what anyone says around you is none of your business. It can't break you, it can't shake you. You're unshakable, you're untouchable because you are so anchored in self. I'm really excited about that with Saturn in Aries because it started in 2011 when Neptune entered Pisces, but because Neptune is also in Aries at this early degree mark of Aries, there's this energy of idealizing the hero or idealizing self-improvement and self-betterment, letting go of the victim mindset complex and stepping into true ownership and authority of self. And this whole energy and this whole era that we're seeing with Neptune and Aries, and now Saturn entering Aries now, meeting up with that Neptune, there's this ideal and illusion almost in this like romanticization of Aries energy. But Saturn is also coming in and saying, okay, but let's get serious about it. Let's actually put in the work and not be deluded about the I am, the hero's journey, the main character of your life. Let's actually put in the work and do this and take this seriously. I personally am very excited for that. But what can I say? I'm a Scorpio rising with Mars and Aries in the 6th. I don't do victim mindset. If anything, I'm just so overjoyed about Neptune and Saturn in Aries, just on a collective energetic mindset level of where we're all approaching life. I think it's gonna be awesome. A couple of fun facts before we get into the rising signs and what you can expect based on your birth chart with Saturn entering Aries. Before we get into that, do you want to mention some fun facts about Saturn? Saturn, we know, has these rings, right? We know that Saturn has the rings, but did you know that Saturn is also a gas giant, just like Jupiter? Saturn has 82 known moons. 82 moons for Saturn. That's crazy. So if you're on Saturn, it's 82 moons. And the cool thing about this, Jupiter and Saturn both rain diamonds. Like diamonds rain upon Saturn and Jupiter. So imagine you're on Jupiter and these diamonds are falling on you and it's like these blessings, these gifts. But on Saturn, the diamonds that are falling are given to you when you put in that work and that effort and that time. If you put in the hard work and you put in the effort and the discipline and the consistency with what you're doing and you stay focused on Aries, I am, you'll get the rewards. But it demands dedication and commitment. There's no taking the short, easy way. There's no taking shortcuts. And a lot of people, I think, are going to be wanting to take shortcuts with Saturn and Aries because, again, Aries wants to go fast. Aries is naive and it just wants to go and speed and doesn't really think. It doesn't think about the strategy behind how it's going to do something. It's not like Scorpio. Aries just does things because it needs to. It needs to move. It has this primal raw energy of movement and taking action. But Saturn thinks about things very thoroughly before it does anything. And so with this Saturn and Aries, it's just this weird mix where they don't really get along and they don't understand each other at all. And so the key with this transit is to really take action and focus on yourself and get the work done during these 3 years of whatever it is, whatever projects you're doing, but also look at the finer print and the details and ask yourself, are you ready? Before leaping and taking that leap, ask yourself, am I really ready? Have I thought this through? Is this really a long-term strategy or am I just rushing into this without thinking about the repercussions? This is an action-packed 3 years. We're all gonna be feeling ready to go and ready to move. This is not the slow, sleepy slumber of Neptune and Saturn and Pisces that we have had for the last 3 years. That doesn't have this sweet compassion and this long-term deliberation and contemplation, dreamy spiritual quality. It doesn't have that. Saturn and Aries wants to go and take action. We're going to start seeing a lot of people taking action in their lives and really making major decisions. Hello, I've been saying it for years, relocation is the future. Everyone's going to start moving, especially when Jupiter enters Cancer. I've been saying this for years, preparing everyone for astrocartography and the times that we're entering. If you haven't seen those videos, go watch my playlist. Saw a video earlier today that was just shared to me on YouTube that like Saturn and Aries is going to be this amazing transit. And I'm just like, are you sure? Like, are you sure do you know astrology? Because Saturn in Aries is in its fall. Saturn in Aries is also a time in the world when wars usually begin. Saturn in Aries is a time when conflict gets bigger, when people are fighting more and they're more in your face about it. Saturn in Aries will fight. And so there are a lot of things about the world and the collective times that we're entering that I'm not excited for. I don't like Saturn in Aries for that confrontational fighting mentality. I think it's gonna be a very conflict-ridden next 3 years. I mean, for the United States specifically, the next 8 years, but the next 3 years are gonna be very conflict intensive. And I've been saying that a long time on this YouTube channel. So Saturn enters Aries on May 24th, today, and it will leave Aries on September 1st of this year, 2025. Now, it will go back into Pisces for one final wrap up of that story. So wherever you had Pisces, it's wrapping up that story and finishing it off. I already know, I'm already expecting and predicting things in my own life of like what I'm wrapping up during that time. I already like matches the timeline perfectly with what I have in my head. It's amazing how astrology works. It's incredible. What you're planning and thinking about, the transits just match and mirror that which you're already working on. It's incredible. But Saturn will then enter back into Aries. So we're getting a little sneak preview this summer until September 1st on what these next 3 years are about. This summer, it's really key to pay attention to everything that's going on in the world, in the news, in your life, because it's a preview for the next 3 years. Because we're getting Uranus in Gemini beginning July 7th this summer. We're getting Jupiter entering Cancer on June 10th. So we're getting a nice sneak preview about what's coming up for all of us, both in the world and in our personal lives. On February 13th, then Saturn will re-enter Aries. So February 13th of 2026, so next February, Saturn will come back into Aries, and it will be firmly in Aries until April 12th of 2028. So this summer is key because we're getting this really strong sneak preview of what's to come. All right, so let's talk about the rising signs. Make sure to pull up your chart using the whole sign house system on astro.com, AstroSeek. If you want to get my favorite app and software for this, go to Astro Gold. Astro Gold is my favorite. You can use it for Mac or your iPhone. Use the code Helena15 for 15% off. I'll include all the links down below. Let's get started. Aries, first house. If you are an Aries rising, Saturn's going through your first house. So Saturn's asking you to get really disciplined, serious about your identity, who you are, and also your physical body and how you treat your body. If you are a Taurus rising, Saturn is going through your 12th house of mental health, isolation, spirituality, and hidden enemies as well. The 12th house is hidden enemies, solitude, mental health, anything that's underneath the surface or in your subconscious. If you're a Gemini rising, Saturn is going through your 11th house. So Saturn's asking you to get very serious and disciplined and responsible toward your dreams and your hopes and your aspirations for your life, as well as your relationships to groups, organizations, friends, as well as your followers. If you're a social media person or you have an audience online, Saturn is going to put some delays or slow down that area of life. If you're a Cancer rising, Saturn is going through your 10th house of career, public image, and reputation. So you might find that that area of life is slowed down for you, or there's more barriers or restrictions. However, Saturn is asking you to get really serious and disciplined about that area of life. If you're Leo rising, Saturn is going through your 9th house of beliefs, as well as higher education, university, and travel. So you might find that you're maybe doing less travel or more restricted on travel or foreign visas, foreign countries, or anything to do with higher education, universities, or your personal beliefs and spiritual beliefs. Also, the 9th house is religion. So anything along that as well. If you're a Virgo rising, Saturn's going through your 8th. This is a harder placement, but it can represent you getting very serious about your finances, specifically your partner's finances, your merged finances and assets that you have together as a couple. And it also represents other people's money and resources like debt, credit cards, taxes. I've seen a lot of clients when they have Saturn in the 8th, they get audited or like they have some issues come up with finances or like their taxes. The 8th house is also other people's money, like your joint finances together, and it's also death. So if there is a death in the next 3 years, like a family member or a friend or someone in your life, that's Saturn going through the 8th. Saturn is just asking you to get more responsible and disciplined about finances and merged resources with other people, and also asking you to get more serious about life and death and time. If you're a Libra rising, Saturn's going through your 7th house of marriage, partnerships, and one-on-one connections and contacts. So you might find that that area of life is slowed down, or if you're in a relationship or married, you might find your partner is going through a lot of challenges, and so you need to support them, or there's some more effort, responsibility, and duty toward your partner during those years. It can also be that area of life, it's just a little bit slower. If you're looking for someone or you're single and you're looking to find someone, can be you meet someone. Saturn the 7th can definitely be you meet someone, your life partner during that time. Could be they're older or just a very serious, mature relationship. But it can also represent you feel a little isolated with one-on-one relationships. If you're Scorpio rising like me, Saturn's going through your 6th house of work, responsibilities, everyday tasks and duties, as well as your health. Saturn's gonna ask you to get really disciplined and serious about your health routines, how you take care of your body, your nutrition, your exercise habits, and how you approach the everyday life, like your everyday tasks, and also working with coworkers too. Saturn in the 6th is also big on pets. You might just find that you have a lot of work that you have to put in towards your animals, like your cat or your dog. Fun fact, I'm actually thinking about getting a dog over the next 3 years. It's my husband and I, we've been waiting for years. We've been together 10 years and we're finally gonna get a dog at some point in the next few years. It's just so interesting how we can already sense what a transit's gonna bring up before it even happens. It's incredible. We're so intuitive, us souls here on planet Earth. If you're a Sagittarius rising, Saturn is going through your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, and performing. It's also children too. So you might get really serious or have more work and responsibilities toward children, having kids, if you end up having a kid during these 3 years, or just the way you express yourself. So like for me, just recently I ended the Saturn return in the 5th, and I literally created so much over the last 3 years. My courses, my programs, my workshops. I love Saturn in the 5th house. The 5th house is the house of good fortune, and there's just a lot of cool things that can come up when Saturn's in the 5th house of good fortune. So the area of life of children, fertility, and creative self-expression, also dating and vices. The 5th house also rules vices, so you might find that you're getting really serious about drinking alcohol, smoking, getting rid of video games, consumption, any type of escapist behavior, partying, spending a lot of money on things that aren't improving your life in some way, that are just fun, but that take a lot of energy from you, vices, essentially. Saturn is gonna ask you to get more serious about that. If you're Capricorn rising, Saturn's going through your 4th house of home, family, traditions, and parents. So it could be you feel restricted at home, or there's more responsibilities, duties, and obligations to your home and living situation or your parents. If you're an Aquarius rising, Saturn's going through your 3rd house of communication and social media and short form writing or speaking. So you might find that you're getting really serious and focused on that area of your life, and just there might be some boundaries or restrictions around communicating or expressing your truth and expressing yourself. But that's an area of life that you're gonna take a lot more seriously. Fun fact, I started a YouTube channel when Saturn was going through my 3rd house, and it was a time of like really releasing my voice, my thoughts, and my self-expression. You can find all those videos on my personal channel, Helena Woods. Literally, that YouTube channel was Saturn in the 3rd and 4th transit. So enjoy that, Aquarius and Capricorn risings. And finally, if you're a Pisces rising, Saturn's going through your 2nd house of finances, money, and also your possessions. So you might find that there's a little bit more effort or delays or challenges with making money, earning money, saving money, or just your values and like what's important to you. Like you might find like you're really focusing on self-care and what do you need to take care of yourself to provide self-care and value to yourself. You may also find that saving money is a bit more challenging, or you might be just getting really frugal and minimalist in what you buy and purchase, like your possessions, the things you have in your home. If it's not about possessions or values and self-care, it can be there's more challenges, delays, or discipline toward making money. All right, I hope you enjoyed that little recap of all the rising signs and what you can generally loosely expect based on your rising sign. Again, you need to look at your birth chart. You have personal planets that will get activated if you have any personal planets in Aries, Libra, Cancer, Cardinal that are angular to where Saturn's going through in Aries. It's going to be more personal to you. If you go going through your Saturn return, you have Saturn in Aries, then you are going to be experiencing a time of stepping into your purpose, stepping into your work. It's a really cool transit, especially if you have a day chart and you don't have a difficult Saturn in your chart. And you can learn more about Saturn and the timing of Saturn in your life listening to my podcast down below, Cosmic Compass, wherever you get your podcasts. And by the way, I am doing a giveaway right now. So if you don't follow me over on Instagram at Ms. Helena Woods, I am giving away a free reading and some free courses. So if you haven't followed me over on Instagram for all the daily giveaways, updates, magical things that I'm sharing all the time, definitely go follow me over on Instagram at Ms. Helena Woods. It's pretty fun over there. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video on Saturn and Aries. It's gonna be a very interesting transit. I am very eager and excited and curious to see how the collective is shifting into this new fire, action-driven energy, and also just having a full, and also just remembering the pros and cons of this transit, and that Saturn is in its fall, and so it's not the easiest time for Saturn to be, but it's also a great time for us to put in the work and do the things that we say we're gonna do. And I think we're gonna feel a lot of momentum and energy and action toward actually doing all those things that we want. So remember, this is your year, these are your years, you're the main character of your life. Get anchored, get unshakable, and be sure to check out my cheat sheet so you don't miss any of the amazing unshakable things that are to come. I'll see you in the next one.